Hello and welcome to this month's Astro Business Forecast. And it wouldn't be a Mercury Retrograde alive without some technical glitches. But I'm live now. That's all that matters. Okay, June is here. We have a new month. We have a lot happening and not much happening. There are a lot of things that are going to take place in June which are going to urge you to slow down, are going to ask you to surrender and to let go of the expectations that you had. It sounds easy, and at the same time, it's probably one of the most complex and difficult things to do. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Patricia Panassi. I am an astrologer and business mentor, and I help business owners, especially coaches and service providers, to find more ease and joy in their business, because running your own business is fun, and if you're not having fun yet, you haven't cracked the code, but that's about to change. And this forecast will already help you to embrace that joy, embrace that ease, and help you to shift from the hustle and the burnout and so many things that are going on to actually knowing what needs to happen at what time. Because you're not doing the wrong things, or maybe some of them, but mostly it is about doing the right tasks at the wrong time. Just to give you a little bit of backstory of Mercury retrograde, if you haven't caught my live last week or haven't listened to my podcast about why Mercury retrograde is a blessing, and the reason why I start with this is because it's really the introduction into the month of June. Mercury retrograde is a really awesome, good thing because it encourages us to slow down. Now, a lot of people are talking about Mercury retrograde, it's bad, and they're kind of downplaying it, and it's actually not downplaying, they're like making it much worse than it actually is. Making it this thing that we should fear, we should be scared of. And there's so many things that we're taught to be scared of, but it's actually unknown that we're afraid of. It's the not knowing what your next step is going to be, or not knowing where this is going to lead you. Mercury is the planet of communication, and when that planet stations retrograde, all of our communication, all of the ways that we thought we knew are shifted. The way that we think, the way that we process, the way that we communicate, the way that we interact with other people, everything is shifted and changed. So it can become very challenging and hard to accept that we're slowing down. And that's exactly the theme of June. Slowing down. Let me just make sure that I have everything set up correctly. And slowing down is something that, of course, we are not taught to do, or almost if it's something wrong, that if you slow down, you're gonna miss out on things. It's this whole, the fear of missing out. And that's why Mercury retrograde is often labeled as something bad, because we're not in this go, go, go mode. We're not in this doing mode, but we are more in the being. That feels like you're missing out on something. That might feel that you should be doing something. And that's really the energy of June, because we have lots of planets in retrograde. I'm just checking my notes. Mercury is in retrograde right now. Saturn is in retrograde. We're going to have Jupiter, Neptune, also in retrograde. Pluto is already in retrograde. So there's a lot of reevaluation time, which is interesting because summertime kind of feels like this buzzing, exciting, vibrant time. Well, that is part of it, but it's also the contemplation, the turning inwards. And the cosmic tides really want you to do this. And if you're fighting it, if you're trying to resist it, then it's going to be a very long and hard and challenging summer. Mercury will station direct at the end of the month. We have a new moon solar eclipse in Gemini. We have Venus moving into Cancer at the beginning of the month. At the end of the month, Cancer will move to Leo. We have the summer solstice, winter solstice if you live down under. We have Mars moving into Leo, so that is the vibrant, exciting energy that we have, but also on a bigger scale, we have the Saturn Uranus square, which is more something that we'll feel on a collective level opposed to a personal level, but it is something that you can take note of. And then we end the month with Capricorn full moon. So there are a lot of things happening, and I really wanted to focus on the most important part. If you want the detailed version of this, you can go to patriciabanassi.com/magic, and then you can download the PDF with way more dates and way more events than I will be sharing here. And this will help you tremendously to plan your month ahead, because this month can cause some curveballs. Also, we're still in eclipse season. We had the Sagittarius full moon lunar eclipse, and we're going to have the new moon, the Gemini new moon solar eclipse, which is, we're kind of in this portal, this vortex, where we can expect curveballs. For us astrologers, eclipses are hard to, not necessarily to predict, because we can never predict what's going to happen, but the energy is also quite hard to predict because it connects to larger cycles, and especially this one connects back to the cycle that we had in December last year. But it is it's hard to really put your finger on where the energy is going to go, because we consider these as curveballs for a reason, because they can go either way. They can go left or right. They can go up or down. It's expect the unexpected. So that's kind of the beginning of June. So on June 2nd, we have Venus entering Mars. Venus entering Cancer. I just saw Mars in my list. So this is Mercury. Reading, expressing, processing is just... there are a lot of things going on. So Venus was in Gemini before. It was looking for a new stimulus. It was constantly trying to search for different things and different topics. Right now, Venus will turn more inwards, and it will tend more to itself and to the people around you. It will also be a moment where if you make bigger financial decisions, it will be much more based on your emotions and how you feel, rather than your rational mind, which was Gemini. That kind of rationalized everything. If you need to make a big investment, make sure that you check in with yourself, and also make good decisions and do some research before jumping into it, because it feels good. Because you do want to have it backed up a little, but it does make you a little more sensitive to what feels good. So trust that feeling and then do your research. We have then, on June the 3rd, we have the Sun in Gemini trining Saturn in Aquarius. And this is really a good day to set goals. Saturn is in retrograde, so it is not necessarily too much of focus goal setting, but what do you need in place to set the goals? What do you need in place to achieve? What are the changes that you want to initiate, and how can you shape your reality around that, so it will help you to create that change? And at the same time, we have Venus trining Jupiter on that same day, which will help you to go beyond what you thought was possible. It kind of takes it a step further than in your more comfort zone. Then on June 5th, we have a little bit of discomfortable energy, because Mercury in retrograde is squaring Neptune in Pisces. And this can give a lot of unclarity, because Neptune likes to cloud the vision. Mercury in retrograde is not necessarily all about the clear vision. So be okay with the unknown and be okay with just realizing where you stand. This also ties back into May 22nd when they have the first square of Mercury was direct. Allow yourself to be okay. And not doing anything is not unproductive. Sitting in the unknown might feel unproductive, but it's actually really productive because it lays the foundation for you to take the next step. So it's really about integrating the lessons before jumping ahead. Then on June 10th, we have the new moon solar eclipse at 19 degrees Gemini, which happened at 6:53 a.m. Eastern time and 12:43 Central European time. This is really where the rubber meets the road. This is where you can get practical, where you can just set your intentions and really go all in. But with one little note that because it's a solar eclipse, wait at least a day or two before setting intentions. Like I mentioned before, eclipse seasons are the curveballs. So if you want to make sure that you set intentions in alignment with truly what you desire, opposed to this heightened emotional state that you might be experiencing, allow yourself to sit with it a little bit. Sit with what is happening, what is going on, what do I feel? And because, I mean, think about what a solar eclipse is. We're supposed to have the light, and then the moon comes in front of the sun and it gets dark. While we're supposed to see the light, it gets dark. So imagine that happening in your internal landscape as well, because yes, I'm talking about the planets, but this is all about your internal landscape as well. This is exactly what is happening on the inside. It's a very sensitive time because Mercury is in retrograde and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So don't be afraid to set up boundaries. Don't be afraid to be very clear. This is what I want and this is what I don't want. This is what I need and this is what I don't need. Don't be afraid to uphold them and hold other people to it. Like, this is what I want, and be very clear about that. On June 11th, this time we do have Mars. Mars entering Leo. For the next 6 weeks, this is all about pleasure and fun. Now, one little side note. Mars in a fire sign, because Mars is the ruler of Aries. Leo is also a fire sign. It can get very flamboyant and exciting. And we could tend to forget that it's not all about action, but it does take the passion and the confidence that we need in order to stay in this unknown space. Now, luckily, Mercury will go out of retrograde after that, so we don't have to worry about that too much, but it gives you, it's like this like playful kid that's like having fun. No, it's not a kid, it's a teenager. Mars and Leo is like a teenager, like having fun, going out there, partying, and really this uplifting and entertaining energy that it brings. And if you have a project that you have been putting off because you don't feel confident enough, because it feels a bit scary, this is the perfect time to actually go ahead, dive right in and do it. Then on June 14th, we have the Saturn square Uranus. Saturn in retrograde in Aquarius squaring Uranus in Taurus. And this is one, because these planets move very slow, the effect, we already feel this right now. So it's not like exactly on June 14th, that's when it's gonna hit us. And that's it. This is lasting a lot longer. Also, this is more on what I mentioned before, on a collective scale. So Saturn likes the structures, likes to keep everything organized and predictable. Whereas Uranus is the exact opposite. Uranus is radical change, transformation, changing the status quo, really up-leveling and trying to see what can we change quickly? Like, what can we go? Like, go, 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 instead of, wait, let's just figure this one out, which is what Saturn does. And when there's a square, there is this friction where we have the establishment going against the change. And because Saturn is in Aquarius, this can relate to groups coming together and forcing the change. And whenever you are resisting the change, that is when it's going to be the most painful. But there will always be people that resist the change, and especially because this probably is going to play out more on group against group kind of situation, where people get hyped up and they are pursuing their ideals, which is what Aquarius is about, as well as Uranus. Fighting for your ideals, and it doesn't matter which one is true, but we will see people more and more fighting for their ideals and what they believe is true. On a personal level, this is a good time to realize, how do you deal with changes? How can you adapt to these changes that will inevitably take place? I shouldn't use difficult words in the Mercury Retrograde. Can you stretch your adaptive? How can you adapt? Like, how can you stretch that? Can you be comfortable in the unknown? Those are questions that you can ask yourself from now on already. This is not exactly on June 14th, but I want you to realize, what is your relationship with change? What is your relationship with the structures that you have in your life? Then on June 20th, we have Jupiter stationing retrograde in Pisces, and later it will move in Aquarius. In intuitive Pisces, Jupiter will give you a lot more insights, and it will help you to listen to your intuition. Jupiter likes to see things through rose-colored glasses, which is amazing because it always sees the positive sides. And it kind of overlooks the parts where it might be a little bit challenging, where you might be a little bit cautious. Now, when Jupiter is in retrograde, it actually helps us to slow down and to see where we can be a little bit more cautious. Again, this is a slower moving planet. The effect will be felt less, unless you have a strong placement of Sagittarius, because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, or Aquarius or Pisces, since the Jupiter is going to retrograde in those two signs. On that same day, we have the Sun moving into Cancer, which is the summer solstice. And this really marks the beginning of summer. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, in the Southern Hemisphere, you obviously will have the beginning of winter. But for the Northern Hemisphere, it's the longest day of the year. It reminds you of the light. And the sun is the center of the universe as we know it. Everything revolves around it. So today, that day, think about what brings light into your business, what brings light into your life. And how can you center that, at least for that day, center yourself around that light. And how can you enhance the light? Because after this day, we will actually slowly have less light. So how can you embrace that heightened state of brightness? And it's a day to absorb the warmth, absorb the light, say thank you to all that the sun is giving us, and really bask in that beautiful light. Dance around, have a party, just enjoy the moment. Two days after the solstice, we have Mercury stationing direct in Gemini. And it's not like it right away. It's like, yes, Mercury is direct, we can go again. Yeah, I feel excited. Because once it stations, it kind of stands still before it starts to move again. So allow yourself to be okay with not getting into the action mode right away, but know that there is this, you're going from reflection to translating those insights into action, and that takes time. Because we're still this Mercury retrograde, we were still processing and evaluating, especially in your business. If you haven't listened to the last forecast, I went into depth on how you can use Mercury retrograde to reflect on your business, to look at different things, how to structure it. You can also listen to podcast number 5, Mercury is a blessing and here's why, because that will actually go into detail what Mercury is really good for. So if you have done that, once it's stationed direct, you can actually slowly start to pick up pace again and really embrace that, all of those insights that you have collected over the retrograde period. Then we have the full moon at 3 degrees Capricorn, which is happening on June 24th. At 2:40 p.m. Eastern Central Time and 8:40 in the evening in Central European Time. No eclipses. We're done. After the new moon in Gemini, we have closed off the eclipse season. So we just have a normal full moon. And actually, this is like one of the easiest going, one of the most smooth full moons, even though full moon always tends to bring a lot of emotions up. Capricorn is super stable, super responsible. This is a perfect time to tie up any loose ends, wrap up any projects, and what is preventing you from reaching your goal in a practical way. So this is not a lot about the emotions behind it. This is not much about this is really to help you to get clear on what is important in your business and what needs to be let go of. Whether that's a client that you don't align with, whether it is a project that you're not passionate about anymore. This is a time for you to decide, because it's your business and you're the one who's responsible for it. So really step up and be the CEO that you're meant to be. And that means sometimes making hard decisions, but Capricorn has your back. The full moon in Capricorn will help you to release those burdens that are weighing you down, to help you move forward. We close the month off with Neptune stationing retrograde on June 25th. Again, this is a slower moving planet, so the retrograde doesn't affect us much. It's mostly on the days where it stations retrograde, and when it comes out of retrograde on December 1st, it will help us to tune in deeper into our intuition. So expect around the 24th, 25th, 26th to have more hits of inspiration, more insights, that you can feel into situations, feel into things that are going on. Now, if you have Pisces rising, or you have a lot of prominent Pisces energy, this one will feel a little bit more personal for you, because if you have Pisces rising, that means that Neptune is your chart ruler, and that will bring a whole different flavor to your chart. That brings a whole different type of energy into your business, because the intuition is turned on in a different way. And if you know where Neptune retrograde is happening, that will either be in your 12th house or in your 1st house, depending on where your Pisces ascendant is located, how many degrees. So it will either be very much enhancing your spiritual practice, the way that you connect with others, the way that you are integrating reality and fantasy. If it's in your 1st house, that will be very much related to your identity, how you show up in the world, which is a different kind of flavor, but it will really help you to get into new layers of understanding and your intuition and following your guidance, because that's really important. Now, if you don't have Pisces rising or any intense Pisces energy, don't worry, you will still feel it on a very subtle level. Again, this is not as hard-hitting as Mercury retrograde is. Mercury retrograde is a personal planet, or we call it a personal planet, so it affects us on a very, very different level. If you're listening and you're like, wow, this is a lot. How to integrate this, how to put this in a long-term plan. I got your back, because I offer one-day retreats where we are going to go into the next 6 months, because we're almost halfway through the year. We have traveled the first half of 2021, we've survived. If you want to set yourself up for success for the second half of 2021, something has to shift. You have to be very intentional with where you direct your energy. For instance, if you know where Mercury retrograde is in your own chart, you actually know what area of your life is being highlighted, so that you can even go deeper into understanding the lessons, into listening what is going on. We do all of that in one day. I like efficiency. We can just go through your whole schedule for 2021, for the second half of 2021. Dive into when are you going to do what. This is not about changing all of your plans. This is shuffling things around and understanding when certain things are really good to do and when there are moments where maybe you can take a step back, you can rest. I was just talking to another business owner, and she is launching a workshop in the middle of Mercury retrograde. But do you know what? Her workshop is actually about evaluation. It's about taking a stand and looking where you're at. That is perfect. If you know that, if you understand that when you're planning something, it will actually enhance the experience. Because if you plan this in a Mercury retrograde, everybody will be more prone to evaluate, to review, to reassess. And if you know that, your launches, your workshops will actually be a much bigger success, because collectively we are tuned into this energy. Collectively we are plugged into this energy, which helps all of us to reassess, to reevaluate. And that's really the theme of June. Reassess, reevaluate, review. And that will be the perfect time for you to book your one-day retreat, to get to the bottom of what needs to get done. And what are things that maybe you could push forward a little bit longer. You can contact me, leave me a message below, and I will get back at you with more information, because I believe that everybody should be able to run their business in a joyful and easy way. I will catch you next week, and I hope it's as beautiful weather as it is at your place as it is in Holland, because we have beautiful spring weather. Finally, I feel alive again. And I will talk to you again next week.